All right, buckle up everybody, because today we are diving deep into American Primeval. You guys wanted the inside scoop on this new show, so that's exactly what we are going to deliver. And to make sure we do this right, we have really stacked up all kinds of articles, character bios, even some deep historical dives to paint a clearer picture of 1857 Utah territory. But before you picture sweeping vistas and heroic cowboys, our expert here is going to paint a more, let's say, nuanced picture, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's not just the romanticized frontier life you see in movies. This was a really intense period, actually. Power struggles all over the place. You have to remember the U.S. government, fresh off the Mexican-American War, well, they are trying to figure out how to solidify their control over this new territory. But they are walking into a huge web of existing tensions. You've got the Native American tribes fighting to protect their land and their way of life, obviously.
Right.
And then there's the Mormon church seeking refuge from persecution. They are trying to establish their own Zion, right, in the Salt Lake Valley. Not to mention all the waves of settlers with their own dreams and motivations. All these competing interests create a powder keg just ready to explode.
Right, ready to explode. And the show just wastes no time plunging us right into that chaos. And one of the first people we meet is Sara Rowell. She looks like she walks straight out of a Philadelphia high society portrait, but she is right in the thick of it, in the middle of this really rough frontier.
Yeah, she is. And she has more baggage than just those fancy trunks, I can tell you that. She's on the run with her son, Devin. They're going to Utah trying to meet up with Devin's father. But the sources we've looked at, they hint that she may be fleeing something a little more serious than just social scandal. There's this alias, see, this Sarah Holloway.
Yeah.
And she's wanted for murder back east. So it just makes you wonder what she's really running from, you know?
It really does add that layer of intrigue to her character.
Yeah.
Speaking of intrigue, what about their arrival at Fort Bridger? That isn't exactly the peaceful trading post that she was expecting, is it?
Oh, no. Not even close. It's, imagine a muddy, chaotic outpost, just crawling with rough mountain men, weary travelers, and more than a few shady characters, I think. This is a far cry from the refined world Sarah is used to.
I can imagine.
Even Jim Bridger, the fort's founder, he famously said, civilization and civilized are two different words entirely. Which I think really captures the spirit of Fort Bridger, right?
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder that on the frontier, survival trumps etiquette. And Fort Bridger. This is where Sarah meets Isaac Reed. He's a rugged mountain man who really embodies that frontier spirit.
Yeah, Isaac. He is definitely not your typical hero, really a man of few words. Comfortable in nature, and, well, let's just say the sources mention his casual approach to nudity, but he has this rough exterior. But underneath that, there are these hints of a complex past and a strong moral code, you know?
Yeah.
Isaac. He's not someone you want to underestimate.
I bet he's got some stories to tell, huh? Now, alongside Sarah and Isaac, we also meet Jacob and Abish Pratt. They are Mormon pilgrims traveling with a wagon train, so they represent a very different facet of life in the Utah territory, right?
Yes, definitely. Their storyline offers us a really good look into the internal struggles within the Mormon community. At that time, of course. So Jacob, he is deeply devout, unwavering in his faith and in his belief in Brigham Young's leadership. But Abish, while she's committed to her faith, she seems to be grappling with some doubts, especially when it comes to polygamy. So you can see how that tension adds this really interesting layer to their relationship and their journey.
Right. It reminds us that even in a seemingly unified group like that, there are always individuals wrestling with their own beliefs and interpretations. And then there's Two Moons, a young Lakota woman whose story is both heartbreaking and inspiring.
Yeah, she is. She represents the perspective of the indigenous people, you know, the people whose lives are being totally upended by this wave of settlers. And Two Moons, she's already faced unimaginable hardship. So her story is a powerful testament to the resilience and strength of Native American women, especially in the face of adversity like that.
Absolutely. I mean, the way she takes control of her own destiny, even when faced with such brutal circumstances, it is just remarkable. But this brings us to a pivotal event, an event that throws everyone's lives into chaos. The brutal attack on the Fancher Party. Now, for those who don't know, the Fancher Party was a wagon train headed to California, and they were attacked in southern Utah. It's a dark chapter in history. And the show doesn't shy away from depicting the violence and terror of that event.
Yeah, it's a turning point. In the narrative, for sure, and in the aftermath. You can see how fragile life on the frontier really was. We see characters reacting to unimaginable trauma, obviously, forced to make choices they never thought they'd have to face. So thanks to Isaac's quick thinking and skills, Sarah and Devin managed to escape. Two Moons also manages to slip away unnoticed in the chaos. But Jacob...
He isn't so lucky.
No, he isn't. He's brutally attacked, scalped, and left for dead. It's really hard to watch. And you're left wondering, how could anyone survive that? But somehow he does. Right. And that's one of the central mysteries this show sets up early on. How did Jacob survive? And what will the physical and emotional scars mean for his future? It keeps you hooked because you want to understand his recovery and how this experience will shape his faith and his relationship with Abish. This event really, it underscores the show's exploration of survival, not just physically, but also emotionally and spiritually.
Well,
everyone is pushed to their absolute limit, and we're just left wondering, how will they piece their lives back together?
that's where it's really hard to imagine.
It's not just the characters, though. The massacre really throws a harsh light on those simmering tensions between all those groups vying for power.
Right.
You've got these hooded figures, some maybe disguised as Native Americans. It raises some serious suspicion. You know?
It really does.
Was this just a horrific act of tribal warfare, or something more sinister?
Yeah, that's the question everyone's asking, and the show really uses this event to explore those complexities of prejudice and how quickly assumptions can turn deadly. I mean, it makes you wonder, who are the real savages in this whole situation?
Exactly. It challenges all our preconceived notions about good and evil, right?
Yeah.
Civilized versus uncivilized. Remember, this is a time when manifest destiny was widely embraced, which justified the displacement and often brutal treatment of Native Americans, all in the name of westward expansion.
It's a tough part of history to grapple with.
It is, and the show doesn't shy away from those difficult truths.
And it's through characters like Two Moons that we see the human cost of that ideology. She becomes a symbol of the strength and resilience of Indigenous people, even as their world is being torn apart.
Yeah, and her story, it's particularly poignant because it highlights how Native American women especially were so vulnerable during this period.
Right.
They faced the threat of violence and displacement, of course, but also this systematic erasure of their culture and traditions. So Two Moons' journey, it's this powerful reminder, a reminder of the ongoing fight for recognition and justice. And that fight continues today.
Absolutely. It's a perspective that's often missing from traditional Western narratives, and I think the show does a great job of bringing it to the forefront. But talking about different perspectives, it's interesting to see how the massacre impacts Sara and Jacob. I mean, they are impacted in vastly different ways. Sara, hardened by her own experiences, she adopts this survival at all costs mentality.
Yeah.
But for Jacob, the attack shakes his faith to its core.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how their journeys diverge from this point on.
Yeah.
Sara, she is forced to confront the darkness within herself, and all the secrets she's carrying. So she becomes even more guarded and suspicious.
Well, I can see that.
She starts to see the world through this lens of mistrust, questioning everybody's motives.
Which makes her interactions with Isaac all the more interesting, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're like two sides of the same coin, both deeply shaped by the frontier, but approaching life with very different philosophies.
Yeah, they really are.
And then there's Jacob. He's struggling with the trauma of his experience and that seeming silence of God in the face of such suffering. It's incredibly compelling to watch his struggle to reconcile his faith with the brutal reality he's faced with.
It really is.
And especially when you contrast his journey with Abish's, the massacre seems to solidify her doubts about Mormon doctrine, particularly polygamy. So she starts to question the authority of the church leaders, wondering if their pursuit of Zion justifies the sacrifices they demand of their followers.
It does seem like the attack creates this chasm between them.
Right.
Jacob is clinging to his faith like a lifeline. And Abish, well, she seeks solace in her own independent search for truth. And all that tension, it's heightened by the secrets they're both carrying.
Oh, absolutely. The show does such a great job of weaving those personal struggles together with the larger themes of faith, identity, and belonging. It constantly reminds you that everyone is carrying some kind of burden, whether it's a hidden past, a crisis of faith, or just the weight of historical injustice. And those burdens, well, they have a way of spilling out, impacting everyone around them.
Right. Like they say, you can't run from your past.
Yeah, right.
And in Utah territory, secrets have a way of surfacing. The truth always seems to find a way out.
Oh, it does. And that's what keeps you hooked,
Yeah.
You're invested in the characters' journeys, of course, but also in how those mysteries unravel and how they'll impact that fragile peace or lack thereof in this volatile land. It's like watching a slow-burning fuse getting closer and closer to a powder keg.
Right. And speaking of powder kegs, we've got to talk about Devin. He's often overlooked, just seen as Sarah's son. But I think the sources suggest he's more than just a tag-along.
Oh yeah, he is. He's a crucial player in all the drama that's unfolding. He's observant, resourceful, and deeply affected by everything he's witnessing. And, he's not just a child, right? He's a teenager coming of age in a world where violence and hardship are just normal. So he has to grow up fast. And his journey really reflects those coming-of-age themes that are woven throughout the narrative.
That's a great point. He's straddling that line between childhood and adulthood, forced to make choices that would challenge even the most seasoned frontiersmen.
Yeah, and then you add in his relationship with Two Moons. That adds another layer of complexity,
Right.
Their connection, forged in shared trauma and a mutual need for survival. It transcends cultural and societal barriers, really. So it speaks to that power of human connection. Even in those really unexpected circumstances, it adds this layer of hope amidst all that darkness and despair.
It does. It reminds us that even in the most brutal times, there's still room for compassion, understanding, even love. And I think that's something we all need to hold on to, especially when exploring a period of history as fraught with conflict and tragedy as this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons American Primeval resonates so strongly with people. It doesn't shy away from the darkness, but it reminds us of that enduring human spirit, that capacity for resilience, and that possibility of finding connection and meaning even amidst the chaos.
Right. It's a delicate balance to strike. And from what I'm gathering, the creators have done a remarkable job of weaving together historical accuracy, compelling characters, and those thought-provoking themes.
Oh, they have. And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding, right? We're not just summarizing a plot. We're exploring those nuances, the layers of meaning, the questions that the show raises about history, humanity, and the choices we make when we are faced with unimaginable circumstances.
Yeah, it's like we're giving our listener a decoder ring to unlock the deeper messages embedded in the narrative.
Exactly. And that's what makes the deep dive so special. We're not just relaying information, we're providing a framework for understanding, a way to engage with the material on a much deeper level.
I like that, a framework for understanding. So with that in mind, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the show's overall message. What are the big takeaways here? What are the big ideas that the creators are exploring?
Well, I think at its core, American Primeval is a story about survival. But it's not just about physical survival, right? It's about the choices we make when we're faced with unimaginable hardship, the compromises we are willing to make, the lines we are willing to cross, all to protect ourselves and the people we love.
Right. And it really challenges us to think about what it means to be civilized. Are there universal principles that guide our actions, or do those lines get blurred when survival is at stake?
That's a question that runs through the entire show. We see characters wrestling with their conscience, making decisions that they probably regret later, all in the name of staying alive.
It's powerful stuff.
It is.
It's a reminder that history is messy, and human nature is complex. There are no easy answers here. No clear-cut heroes and villains.
Precisely. And that's what makes this show so compelling. It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world we live in.
It makes you think, how would you react in those situations? What compromises would you make? It's easy to judge from a distance, but when you are right there, immersed in that world, and the stakes are so high, it's a whole different ballgame, right?
It is. And I think that's what I like most about this show, how they approach it. They don't give you easy answers or moral platitudes. They just present these complex situations.
Yes.
And allow the characters and us, the viewers, to really grapple with how messy life on the frontier really was.
It was messy, that's for sure. And speaking of messy, we've talked a lot about the historical context and all those different layers, the themes, but what about the show's ending? I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course, without any spoilers.
Well, let's just say the final episode really delivers. It brings all those storylines together in a way that just makes sense, but is still surprising. There's a lot of action, some heartbreaking losses, and even some unexpected acts of redemption. It really does bring everything we've seen so far to a head.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. It sounds like they've crafted a story that stays with you long after the credits roll. And that's the mark of a truly great show, wouldn't you say? One that makes you think about the world in a whole new way.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah?
And American Primeval does just that. It's not just entertainment. It's a thoughtful exploration of history, humanity, and those big questions of right or wrong, justice and mercy, survival and sacrifice. It's a show that asks a lot more questions than it answers, and that's what makes it so great to watch.
It does make you think. So, to wrap things up, let's bring it back to our listener. What's the one thing, the most important insight that you want them to take away from our deep dive as they go and watch American Primeval?
That's a good question. I think I'd encourage them to really pay attention to the silences, the things that go unsaid. The show does a fantastic job of using subtle gestures, those unspoken looks, and that weight of history that hangs over every interaction. There's so much going on beneath the surface, and that's where you'll find the real heart of the story.
I love that. It's like you are giving them a secret map to find all those hidden gems in the show. It's those little details, those quiet moments that really bring a story to life.
Exactly. And I really hope that helps them enjoy the show even more, to really appreciate how much care went into creating such a powerful story.
Well said. Well, I think we have successfully guided our listener through the world of American Primeval. They're now ready to go with all this historical context, character insights, thematic analysis, and even a few hints about the ending.
I think we gave them everything they need to really enjoy this show. And hopefully it sparks some interesting conversations and reflections about the things we discussed today.
I'm sure it will. And on that note, a big thank you to our expert for taking the time to share all this knowledge with us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into American Primeval. We hope you feel prepared and excited to jump in and experience it for yourselves. It's a journey you won't soon forget.